Hello and welcome to a little introduction video to my constructed language, conlanguage, Ardemapt. Today I wanted to make a little intro video, just running over the basics. I will make some videos as a follow-up covering specifically the grammar, the vocabulary, and the culture of the language and the people that spoke it. However, today I'd like to introduce you to the most important resources when trying to learn Ardemapt and to some of the most important facts about it. In the video description, you will find the link to a Google document. This is called the megasheet and contains all information currently available about the language as a whole, all the vocabulary, all the grammar, and all the culture that is currently finished about it. I would recommend for you to open it and possibly read along, as I'm going to walk you through it, and you will see everything that you can find in the document. So let's start off first of all with a definition, or perhaps a little bit of an explanation. What exactly is Ardemapt? Ardemapt is what is called a conlang, a constructed language. If you know about Tolkien, I mean, who doesn't know about Tolkien? You know that, or you may know that he wrote an entire separate language for the elves in his stories, Lord of the Rings, and also The Hobbit and the Silmarillion, which is a language that you can learn fully with a complete grammar, phonetic system, vocabulary, etc. It's also available on Duolingo right now, as far as I'm concerned. So is the Thraki, another popular con language from the series Game of Thrones. And there are some people out there who are crazy enough to do this by themselves, one of which is me. Ardemapt is my constructed language, meaning a language and culture around it, which I have completely made up. It's really more of a study into linguistics and perhaps anthropology as a whole than it is a language worth learning and speaking. Although, of course, theoretically, speaking it and learning it together can be pretty fun, given that nobody in the world actually speaks it. But of course, again, everything that I mention in this, whenever I mention phonetics changing, whenever I mention culture, or compare it to real life cultures, that is more as a parallel or theoretical comparison than an actual. Nothing in this video is actually real language. Alright. It means essentially that it is created for fun or to be used in a certain setting. I will be now walking through you through the table of contents. So the document starts off with an overview of the alphabet of Ardemapt. Ardemapt's alphabet has 26 unique letters, similar to the Latin one. However, there's a unique system in Ardemapt called dotting, which is similar to, in German, ä, ü, and ö, instead of a, u, and o, which changes both the pronunciation and the meaning of the individual letter. Further, Ardemapt is a syllabic language, which means that every single symbol or letter that you can see stands for a syllable, not just singular letter. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you look at it exactly, if you look at an example here on the vocabulary sheet, you can see that there's this symbol, and this means K, or it would be pronounced K. It's not simply a K or a K sound. If you speak it out loud, it is pronounced K. So it is a syllable, not just a singular phoneme. I'm trying to not make this too theoretical in terms of linguistics because, of course, not everybody wants to get into the gritty details with that. But that is what syllabic language in this case means. Dotting, there are 17 dotted letters in the Ardemapt script, which means there are 43 overall combinations. The reason why 43 letters essentially are necessary is because syllabic languages tend to have a far bigger script of individual symbols than languages such as German or English, which are not syllabic. An example for this would be Mandarin, from which I've actually taken a lot of inspiration for this language. Mandarin has thousands of individual symbols, which can stand for entire words or syllables. Secondary, how does Ardemapt work? We will get into the sentence order even in this video, because at the end I will show you how to construct a simple sentence by yourself. So we will leave that for later. Then in the document, as number 3, is all of the vocabulary that currently exists. There will be more. At the moment, there's about 360 to 400 words in Ardemapt, but due to compounding, it's theoretically more. How to form sentences and additives is also covered. Additives is the term for little words that can be added to other words or even the beginning of sentences to indicate something. They're essentially Ardemapt's grammar system. It is relatively simple, and we will see that also when we make an example sentence. Compounding is one of the biggest elements of Ardemapt and one of the most important. If you're a German speaker, this will be very intrinsic to you, or if you're a Cantonese speaker, for example, Cantonese also has quite the complex compounding system. Compounding refers in Ardemapt to the fact that you can combine individual words to make more complex ones. So all the vocabulary you'll find in Ardemapt and in the memrise course is relatively simple, usually very basic words, as you can see, for example, food or work or action or just animal. They do get more specific as we go on, but most of the more complex words, such as spider or octopus, are formed out of individual words at a speaker's notice, and then the context decides what they are translated to. This also means that Ardemapt has a lot of freedom in terms of its translation possibilities and its speaking possibilities. In the right context, words can mean vastly different things, and in individual communities, meanings of words can change very drastically. This is important because the culture is mostly that of a spoken language. Ardemapt was very rarely written down, but that is something that you can explore in the world building segment of the document, which covers the culture of the people that once spoke Ardemapt, as well as their mythology and theogony. That's right, I made an entire mythology for this system. There's also going to be the naming system of Ardemapt and the social rules and commonly used phrases in the document. However, that is some more advanced stuff which we will get into in future videos. For now, let's get into sentence order. So, sentence order, as you can see here, there is a sheet which explains it and then an example sheet included in the document. Important about Ardemapt sentences is that words are written left to right, but sentences are written top to bottom, which means that you write a word, then you go on to, on normal lined Western paper, new line, write the second word, etc. At the end, you ended with a sentence stopper, which is this triangle symbol. If you compound a word, you use this upturned triangle, which is called a compound connector. We will write that when we do our example sentence. The sentence order is generally always the same, and Ardemapt sentences tend to be very simple. When we translate them into English or other languages, we may want to turn singular sentences into more complex, longer ones. Ardemapt will also be essentially read that way. Lots of short, simple sentences added together, but understood in the same kind of context. You can also find this if you look at how Ardemapt is commonly written, that sentences like that would be written underneath each other instead of in new lines. So paragraph breaks sort of have much less of a significance when translating Ardemapt, but we will get into that once we cover translating in detail. Roughly, the sentence order always behaves the same. There is the start of the sentence indicator, if that applies. That may indicate that the sentence is a question or a command or set into the future or past. Also something we will explore in the example. Then the adjective which pertains to the subject, and then the word that is the subject. Then the adjective which pertains to the object, and then the object word. Then, if it exists, an adverb, and then the verb and the sentence ender. Sometimes there might be variations for that, but specific cases we will cover in a later video. So let's get into writing an example sentence. Let's take the sentence, I will have fun. This is a future sentence. in future 1, which means that we need the indicator which indicates future in Ardemapt. This indicator is called da. Da at the beginning of a sentence means that it is set into the future. Ardemapt does not have a future 2, as for example in German, only a singular future, an undetermined one. So we will write da. In the script it is this symbol. And then we follow with subject, object, verb. In this case, we're trying to say, I will have fun. So we will write I, which is also da. These are, of course, pronounced and written exactly the same. That is a phenomenon that happens in syllabic languages eventually, that you will have doubles. But obviously, because of the context, you can make out that this is an indicator and this is the subject. Next up is the object, in this case, fun or joy. The Ardemapt word for that is sepa. Sepa means fun or joy, which is written like this in the script. And then the verb dako for have. So this means I, fun, have, and then the indicator for future, I will have fun, when you translate it fully to English. But let's just say we want to try out compounding. For that, let's take the example word octopus, which I mentioned earlier. In this case, perhaps we will not have fun. We will have an octopus soon, perhaps as a pet, and we're trying to tell our friend about it. In that case, the sentence stays mostly the same. Da as an indicator for future, and then da is the subject I. Instead of sepa for fun, instead, we have to say the word octopus. Now, how do we do that? There's no dedicated word for octopus in the language, but we can compound it. The most common compounding phrasing for octopus is smai sake, which means, translated directly, 8 fish. Smai is the word for 8, and sake means fish. We write it like this. And in the script, it is written with a compound indicator in between to show us that we're not just writing multiple words next to each other or combining it to a more complex word. It is actually compounded. Of course, there's a difference between combining stuff to make a word and a compound word. Some of the words which are used later are more complex. For example, the names of the gods are not compounded. They are in themselves set words. And to indicate that these are the set words, not the compounded ones, in case there are doubles, this compound indicator is important. So we write the sentence just as normally, except we replace that word with the compounded word for octopus. All right. Now you should know how to form very simple sentences, provided you have the vocabulary to use in them. As a ending exercise, I will try to end each video with a little exercise. Go through the vocab list and pick your favorite word in terms perhaps of pronunciation or the way it rolls off your tongue or just the way that you think it's funny. Thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.